Okay, this is the last section in chapter 8, last part. We're going to solve the rational inequalities. Okay, you have 3 steps in order to solve them. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to have to find your critical numbers. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to make intervals. And the third thing we're going to do is we're going to test intervals. Okay, this is similar to when you did quadratic inequalities first semester with Mr. Widener. Not sure how in depth he went on it, but this is very, very similar to that. Okay, so hopefully it'll look kind of familiar whenever you see it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pretend like we're solving it like an equation. And if we're going to do that, then that means that we need to get all of our denominators to be the same. So we're going to need to multiply by what they need. So this one needs an x minus 2 and a 4. It needs a 4 and an x minus 2. Okay, the middle one needs a 3 and a 4, so it needs a 12. And this right hand side needs a 3 and an x minus 2. Okay, well if I'm going to multiply this, if I go ahead and distribute, this is really 4x minus 8. That's what I'm multiplying the x by. So this becomes 4x squared minus 8x over 12 x minus 2. Then I would have minus, if I multiply here, that would be 12 over 12 x minus 2 less than. Okay, this becomes 3x minus 6. So that's what I'm multiplying the x plus 1 by. Okay, there's 2 parts here, so you're actually going to have to FOIL. So this would be 3x squared minus 6x plus 3x minus 6 over 12 x minus 2. Okay, all the denominators are the same. Now here's where it's different. You can't cancel them. So what we're going to do is we're going to get everything on the same side. So we're going to subtract this fraction over here. Okay, why am I subtracting? Because it's positive. So we're going to subtract. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and simplify this because you can combine those together. So this would actually become, 3x minus 6. Okay, so here's what we're going to get. So I would have this fraction would stay the same. Then I have this one. Okay, then I have minus the 3x squared plus 3x minus 6 over 12x minus 2 less than 0. Okay, we need to make the left-hand fraction into one fraction. Okay, when you're combining, we're going to pay attention to our negatives. So I'd have 4x squared minus 3x squared, so that's 1x squared. Negative 8x minus 3x, be negative 11x. And then I would have a negative 12 minus a negative 6. So negative 12 becomes plus 6, this would be minus 6 over 12 x minus 2. Okay, I actually screwed up a little bit, I'm sorry. Okay, these should actually be minuses. So what happens is, it's going to change our x numbers. Alright, so instead of being negative 11, this would be negative 8x minus negative 3x, which would be negative 5x. Okay. Yeah, I knew I had to make something that factored. Okay, then to find your critical numbers, leave this alone right now, you're going to take and you're going to set the top equal to 0 and solve. And you're going to set the bottom equal to 0 and solve. Well, let's solve the top first. So multiply to get negative 6. Add to get negative 5 would be negative 6 and 1. So this would factor into x minus 6, x plus 1. So when I set those equal to 0 and solve, I get x equals 6 and x equals negative 1. Okay, then I also need to set my denominator equal to 0. Well, this 12 doesn't have an x, so it doesn't really count. You just set the parts that have x. So I would have x minus 2 equal to 0. And I solve, I get x equals 2. Okay, these are your critical numbers. So now that's step 1. Step 2 is you're going to make intervals with those numbers. Intervals that go from negative infinity to positive infinity, because you have to check the whole number line. So what you're going to do is you're going to go from negative infinity, then you're going to pick the smallest number. So I like to see which one is the smallest. Negative 1 is the smallest. So I'm going to go from negative infinity to negative 1. Then you pick up where you left off on that one, and then you go to the next biggest number, which would be 2. And then I pick up from 2, and I go to the next number, which would be 6. And then I'm out of numbers, so this one goes from 6 to infinity. Okay, that's step 1. That's finding your critical numbers. That's the hardest part. Step 2 is you're going to test them. You're going to see which ones work. So you found your critical numbers, you made intervals, which was step 2. So step 3 is to test them. So what I need to do to test them is you need to plug in numbers that fit inside these intervals and see if it works for this equation, for this inequality. So like I need a number that's between negative infinity and negative 1. So I need a number less than negative 1. So I'm going to plug in negative 2. I'm plugging it into this inequality right here, and I'm going to see if that's less than 0. Okay? So when I plug that in, I get negative 2 squared, which would be 4. Then I would have plus 10 minus 6, so I would get 8 on top. And then on the bottom, negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4 times 12, would be negative 48. I need to know, is this number less than 0? Well, it's negative, so yes, it's going to be less than 0. Okay, then I go to my next interval. And I need to pick a number between -1 and 2, so I'm going to pick 0. So when I plug 0 in, on top I would have -6. On bottom I would have -24. Well, 2 negatives make a positive, so this number is not less than 0. So I'm going to mark that out. Okay, then I'm going to pick a number that's between 2 and 6. So I'm just going to pick 3. When I plug in 3, on top I get -12. On bottom I get 12. Is that less than 0? Yes, because it's a negative answer. And then for the last one, I need a number between 6 and infinity, so a number bigger than 6. So I'm going to go with 7. On top I get 8. On bottom I get 60. Okay, is that number less than 0? No, because it's positive. So my answers are negative infinity to -1 and 2 to 6. Okay. Okay, your homework that's covering this stuff is the same page as yesterday's. So 577, and you're going to do 25 through 30 all.